section is Jeremiah.
Good morning, welcome to What Have I Just Read with Michael, with Malcolm.
With the jingle. So
Jeremiah chapter
7:21. With that was child sacrifice in there, was that?
Yeah, that's one of the accusations that God is levelling against them through Jeremiah. He said, you're sacrificing children, and this is something I never ever intended.
But that's really interesting, I think, but I never intended, because in the beginning it says, I brought you ransoms out of the land, but I did not speak to them or command them concerning burnt offerings and sacrifices. So it seems, I thought, hang on, weren't the Old Testament always supposed to do sacrifices and burnt offerings? And he's saying, I did not tell you to do this.
Well, I think it's the main thing. I think it's sort of about the emphasis,
right?
Because obviously there are quite a few commands about sacrifice or burnt offerings, but I think what he's saying is, but this command I gave them: obey my voice and I'll be your God. In other words, what God does not want people to do is just get back into the routine of doing lots of doing their sacrifices, their religious services, our religious services.
Right.
And basically we're doing everything directed at ourselves, directed at other people, or lip service to God.
Like just following rules or some instructions written on a page.
That's right. And thinking, well, if I kill my goat today, and
I'll be all right.
I'll be okay.
Yeah, so ticking boxes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when God says, no, actually, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
What I want is obey my voice. I'll do what I say.
Right. That's actually really good. Yeah.
And he says, God says through Jeremiah, I persistently sent you the prophets to you, to speak to you, to remind you. And then this sort of awful sort of charge that he gives to Jeremiah, saying, you're going to preach to them, but they won't listen to you. That's very depressing.
Right.
Very, very depressing.
You shall call them, this is the God, obey the Lord. It is kind of depressing. And it seems to be, it just goes on and on like this, doesn't it? It never really changes, and yet God never gives up, which I always think is kind of amazing.
Vera pointed out this line just now. They walked in their own counsels. And looked backwards rather than forward. What an amazing phrase, Vera. Thank you for
that's a great, yes.
Yes. That's it. They were sort of, even from the days of Egypt, they were looking back to Egypt.
Right.
So, yes.
That's really interesting. When I was listening to that, I did also think, gosh, that's really interesting about the idea of looking forward to the future and not living on our past laurels.
Yeah. And then sort of he says, cut off your hair, throw it away, raise lamentation. And then this awful thing about saying they were even doing child sacrifice.
And you definitely didn't ask for it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Apparently, I had to quickly Google that. And there is actually a place. It's actually right next to Jerusalem, and you can actually go and visit the place. And there's some excavations and stuff there. It's actually quite interesting. Wow. And then John
chapter 6, and this is a great passage where Jesus says, I'm the bread that comes down from heaven. And now we're getting this really exciting, this bit here that sort of sums up so much, where Jesus has talked about, we've talked about this before, about true bread is not the black stodgy stuff or the white fluffy stuff.
Right.
True bread is the word of God, which also happens to be Jesus Christ.
Right.
And it's about feeding on him, doing what he says. Again, still obedience, living for him. And Jesus is saying, I am the bread. I am the true bread. This is the bread that gives for life. Whoever eats of this bread will live forever. And the bread that I will give for the life of the world is my flesh.
That's really interesting, that last bit, isn't it? I will give the bread that I will give for the life of the world is my flesh. That's really interesting.
And of course there are echoes of communion there.
Right.
And breading. And again, it's partly touching what we mentioned yesterday about the fact that Jesus is the one who's come from heaven to earth. So he's the one who can speak about heaven.
Right, and he's the one that's seen God, isn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't we say this, someone here, No one has seen the Father except the one who is from God, which is Him.
Yes, he has seen the Father.
He has seen the Father,
Yeah.
which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And that comes up we've had that before last week as well, haven't we? It comes up
Yeah.
a few times. This idea that He's the one that's really seen God, and we can't see God, but we can only see the person who's seen God. That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Lovely. Great stuff.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a great week.
Hope to see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Right. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Great readings. That look forward.